of the future, search is more about what the customer wants versus what the company wants to say. It's like, what does the customer need? Because if you don't align that, it's called semantic alignment. And it's essentially a math problem that translates to English. And if you can't match those things, the LLMs won't even know to reference you or to help you show up.
Welcome to How I AI, the podcast featuring real people, real stories, and real AI in action. I'm Brooke Raymer, your host and guide on this journey into the real-world impact of artificial intelligence. For over 15 years, I've worked in creative marketing, events, and business strategy, wearing all the hats. I know the struggle of trying to scale and manage all things without burning out. But here's the game changer, AI. This isn't just a podcast. How I AI is a community, a space where curious minds like you come together, share ideas, because AI isn't just a trend, it's a shift. And the sooner we embrace it, the more freedom, creativity, and opportunities we'll unlock. Today's guest is Crystal Waddell. She's the founder of Simple and Smart SEO. Crystal didn't start out in tech. She was a teacher, a coach, and a maker who built and sold physical products. And that background matters because she understands what most SEO experts don't. What it actually feels like to run a business, ship products, talk to customers, and figure out traffic without relying on ads or guessing games. In this conversation, we get into how Crystal uses AI to turn SEO into calm, repeatable systems. We talk about custom GPTs, semantic search, and why discovery today is less about ranking and more about understanding intent. She shares how AI has supported her as a solopreneur, boosted her confidence, and helped her build systems that feel like having a team without burning out. If you're a founder, Shopify seller, or creator who wants to get found online without chasing hacks, this episode is for you. Especially if you care about building a business that supports your life, not consumes it. All right, let's get into it. Thank you so much, Crystal, for being here. And remind me, where in the world are you joining from today?
Right outside of Fayetteville, North Carolina. It's Fort Bragg.
Well, I hope you're keeping warm. This is one of the only times I've ever worn a sweater on my podcast. It's actually chilly for Miami.
Yeah, we got this storm and we got ice and snow. And then my kid is out of school and my husband is home. And so everything just feels a little disjointed right now. But yeah, but it's fun. Snow days are fun.
Well, I'm so happy we got the opportunity to meet during PodFest in Orlando. And it was so wonderful to connect with other podcasters. I'm excited to dive in today, not only as you as a consultant and how you're using AI, but also maybe we can swap podcast tips with AI as well once we get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was listening to the podcast that you had with the 14-year-old boy,
Yeah.
the Alpha. And I sent it to my son and I told my husband and my son, I was like, I want you to listen to this while I'm recording the podcast. And so, that's what they're doing while we're doing this.
Amazing. Well,
Yeah.
I always like to just kind of start and open the floor. And if you could share a little bit about what it is that you do and how you find yourself at the intersection of really leveraging AI today in your work.
Wow. Well, I took it was kind of like a quiz based on like, what is your AI level? And it was through Seer. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they have a really cool tool where it says, like, where do you fall with your adoption and application of AI? And so I scored pretty high. I scored like level 3 out of 4. But one of the things that I've learned to do better now is to use multiple tools, because I used to have like one tool that I felt really comfortable with, which was ChatGPT. But like as I was creating like my own custom GPTs, taking that quiz showed me that, hey, there's some opportunities if you try to recreate that tool in like Claude or Gemini or choose your LLM, and then test them and see what are the different outputs. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's like I've created a lot of things, but now I'm recreating them in different AI tools to see how the results are better or worse.
And that's called Seer?
Yeah, Seer, Seer. They're a big marketing company.
Oh, interesting. I'm going to just out of curiosity take that quiz.
Yeah, yeah. It was fun. Yeah, because there's no measurement of that anywhere else that I found, and I was like, "Oh," and I actually was applying for, like, a low-level SEO position with them
Mhm.
last year, and so I thought, "Oh, you know what? I'm gonna take this," and it actually was pretty good stuff on my resume.
Tell me a bit about your story arc. I read your profile on how you used to actually be a teacher and now you transitioned into consulting. Tell me about that transition.
Oh, man. Okay, I'll try to do the quick summary. But yeah, I was a teacher and I taught for teaching was like my second career. So I'll just start there. And
Mhm.
I taught for a few years until I got married and I had my son. And then once I had my son, I realized, you know what, not financially, emotionally, I was staying home with him. So, I stayed home with him for about 5 years. I coached high school volleyball during that time. And
Mm.
then I went back to teaching and I was a PE teacher. And my job teaching when I went back was teaching adapted PE. And the reason why that's really relevant is that I taught special needs children from age kindergarten or grades kindergarten through 12th grade. And one of the biggest things that I learned and took away from that job was that give one instruction at a time. And that is so applicable to giving instructions to LLMs and also just communicating with other humans in general. We're all like overloaded. So just giving one thing at a time is really helpful. And then in 2020, I actually had a heart attack. It was something called broken heart syndrome. And it's usually where like women have been married for 50 years and then their husband passes away. Only I was just upset about the things that happened in 2020. I was live on a Zoom finishing my last Q&A session of the first course that I ever built. And I was so excited. My son was on the floor and someone asked a question and it just made my heart go like that. And you could see it on the video that, the women that were on there, they're like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I don't know. I just got choked up for a second." And so ended up going to the hospital. And, while I was in the hospital, I just felt like I kind of heard the voice of God and said, quit your job and go just chase your dreams, be creative, live your life, to the fullest every day. And so that's kind of how I ended up here.
Wow. What an incredible story. Thank you for sharing. I'm still just like very moved by your story. It's hard for me to
Oh,
just
yeah.
shift on, but I could just
Yeah.
tell that you bring a lot of heart into what it is that you do now in consulting with Simple and Smart SEO. You work a lot with Shopify sellers, and I've been listening to your podcast, so I just want to dive deeper into how you are serving your community today.
Yeah. Well, one thing I learned teaching, and I appreciate that really very much, Brooke. And I didn't even say thank you for having me to be here, on your show. So thank you for that. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Of course.
But one thing I learned about teaching and coaching, especially like with volleyball, I taught and coached very high level volleyball players. And I used to tell them, I was like, if you want to get better and you want to get seen, you want to get recognized and known and all that type of thing, you need to go find the best and play them,
Mhm.
and it's a little different in the business world. But once I started learning about SEO, I was like, I need to find the best people at SEO and talk to them so I can figure out how to get better faster because I'm behind. I'm 2 careers behind everybody else. So I have to get there as quickly as possible. And a friend and I, she had a massage business. And so we would talk about how we were optimizing our websites. And then finally we were like, we should, record these conversations because not everybody has a business friend that they can talk to about what they're doing on their website. And
Yes.
so that's how the Simple and Smart SEO Show podcast started. And it was really a labor of love, and she kind of went a different direction with copywriting. But I just love learning from like the best in the world. And so that's what I did for almost 200 episodes. I've interviewed experts from, AI to SEO to marketing to email, just kind of covering all of the facets of business because if you're a solopreneur, you get it. It's like it's not just
Yeah.
SEO, you're doing everything and you're wearing all the
Mhm.
hats. And AI has just really bridged that gap where even though we're wearing all the hats, we don't have to do it by ourselves anymore. And that's what I love about just like this era of business because it's really exciting. Like number one, you're not alone. But number two, you finally have the tools that can help you be as capable as you want to be in your business.
Fun fact, I played volleyball for about 10 years and was very
Yeah.
much into it.
Are you a middle?
I was an
Right,
outside
right.
hitter.
Outside,
I'm
nice.
pretty
He was the big
tall.
swinger, guys, so that's like every time you want that ball to hit the floor, that's who you set it to, so that's really cool.
Yeah, so I loved reading that about you as well. So It sounds like you were a very early adapter to creating custom GPTs from what I've read.
Mhm.
So, would you say that was kind of the first time you started using AI? Like, what really sparked your interest and how did you start using it right away?
Well, again, let's roll it back to 2020, in the days of Clubhouse, like in the audio learning space was just so big. And I just craved connection, after my heart attack, I had some extra time and I'd be driving to rehab and I'd be jumping in Clubhouse rooms and that type of stuff. And that's when I first heard about SEO. And I also heard about Jasper at that time. So I don't know if you're familiar with Jasper, but Jasper was like the first white labeling of ChatGPT, essentially, and Jasper had all of these little prompts that were already created, little, essentially custom GPTs that, showed you problem, agitate, solution, little marketing writing patterns that you could use. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my mind is blown. This is so cool. So I'm teaching everybody as I'm learning about Jasper within Clubhouse. And so that was like my first interaction with AI. And that became like my first actual affiliate play. Like I was an affiliate for them and actually made money, like, sharing about Jasper and that type of stuff. And then they partnered with Surfer. So Surfer SEO then became a big part of my workflow. And, until ChatGPT was like released to the world, those were the two main tools that I use to, integrate AI into my everyday stuff.
That's so cool. I've heard of Jasper. I haven't used it yet, but I bet you we were in some of the same Clubhouse rooms. I was hard on Clubhouse when it first
Yes.
opened.
Yes, Clubhouse was it. I mean, I remember listening to people like that were in the shower, and it was like, okay, that's weird, but I get it. You know what I mean? Like it's just the type of place that it was. So yeah, Clubhouse was amazing. I met some people, during that time that I'm still in contact with today.
That's amazing. I actually feel like I should credit Clubhouse to me leaning into coaching, consulting, speaking, and podcasting because it really helped me grow and strengthen and find my voice. Do you agree?
Absolutely, and also I think sometimes we're alone with our ideas and we're having great ideas, but we don't have anybody to bounce them off of.
Mm.
And we used to have this one group, it was called like the 7 a.m. club or something. I can't remember what it was, but we would have a group that met every morning at 7 a.m. And every Friday I would teach about Pinterest. And that was the first time that I realized, oh my gosh, I know things that other business owners don't know. And I'd say things, they go, whoa, whoa, stop. What'd you say? And I was like, "Oh, everybody doesn't know this?" And so you're right. It's like not only did Clubhouse help me develop my voice, but it helped me develop my confidence. And then just like that aha of, "Oh my gosh, I know things that people actually are interested in learning about." And so that just opened up a whole bunch of different doors.
Yes, I relate so much to that right now with AI. I haven't quote unquote gone to school for AI, but I've been such an absorbent sponge for the past few years that when people ask me questions or on the fly interview me for like webinars or things like that, I really surprise myself at how much I've picked up in the past few years. So bring me to current day. So that was about like 5+ years ago. What's your current technology stack? What are you using now beyond ChatGPT? Maybe you're still using Jasper. What are your tools and how do you streamline your workflow or how are you leveraging like SEO tracking and what you use for your clients? I'd love to dig into all of that.
Wow, there's so much there. Okay, first, Brooke, I got to back up and give you props because you're like, I wasn't trained in AI, but you use the tools. Like, that's what it is, that's what a lot of people are hesitant, myself included, even with SEO, like, I'm self-taught, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, I didn't go to SEO school, so who am I to talk about SEO?" And then
Mm.
I realized nobody went to SEO school, it wasn't a thing, it's just, like, a practice that developed out of doing the thing, and that was something that I learned coaching volleyball, it was like,
Mm.
a lot of people will and you've probably seen this in your past, a lot of coaches like to control drills, like toss the ball to the line, pass it up to the target, set it to the target. But in a game, it's not like that. It's messy, it's ugly, it's fast, it's weird. Things just happen and you don't know how to react to that. It's kind of like that thing about like learning ugly. Like that's how my teens were. I even teach little kids like that. It's like, look, it's going to be ugly, but guess what? You're going to learn faster because you are going to be able to respond to like realistic situations. So I just want to say props to you because you learn by doing, and that's why you are like kind of an authority in what you do and when you talk to people because you really got in there. So props to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I just wanted the job to you, because like a lot of people are afraid to get in there. And not only did you get in there, but now you're making a podcast about it. So very cool.
Yeah, we're getting into the fun part, right? So we're going to share all about the tech tools you're using. So I'd love to dive in.
Well, I would say for the podcast, the biggest one is Descript or Descript, however you want to pronounce it. It's got a lot of AI tools built in, but my favorite things about it is that it's like one-click removal of all the filler words, like like, all that type of stuff. Probably preventing me from becoming a better public speaker, but I love that. And then I also love like how you can make the word gaps smaller and speed up things or that type of stuff, and then create chapters, export transcripts. So everything that I really need to do for my podcast is pretty much there. But after I export the transcript, I've created custom GPTs. So I have a custom GPT for when I upload my podcast to Buzzsprout. So Buzzsprout is the platform that hosts my podcast, and that's where I like upload the audio. So when I export the transcript, I then upload it into my GPT that says, you format this for Buzzsprout. So it spits out my title, my description, chapters, all that type of stuff that I need. And so I just pretty much copy and paste that into Buzzsprout if I like it. And then I have a different GPT that I use for YouTube. And I actually do this one first because after I do the same thing for YouTube, then I ask it for Auphonic data. And I don't know if you've ever used Auphonic, but I like it for the sound leveling after I export from Descript. So I upload it into Auphonic and it flattens the file for both video and audio. And then I upload to, either YouTube or Buzzsprout. And when I have that GPT, it gives me Auphonic metadata for the episode. So that's really cool. And so then I can upload everything. So that's kind of my workflow for podcasting. And then in my business, let's see. Well, do you want me to stop there? Because that's for my podcast, and I do some different things for my business.
No, I'd love to also hear how you work it in with your consulting.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I create custom GPTs for all my clients. So the same type of GPTs that I make for myself, I make for my clients. So one of my clients, we take a lot of her YouTube videos and put them into blog format, but we also include the transcript at the bottom of the blog. And that's a way that I found that's the kind of the best way to optimize for SEO, because we keep the transcript formatted verbatim, right? But you technically, when you're creating blog content, you want to chunk that content. You don't want the paragraph sections underneath different headings to be longer than, let's say, 300 words. So I use Surfer to optimize that transcript for the SEO, the keyword that we're trying to rank for. And so I'll say, here are the heading, keywords that you can use. This is the transcript. Take out all the numbers in the transcript and use these keywords as headings where you can. And because it's a custom GPT, it already knows to chunk it in 300 words or less. And so I can optimize things like that. And so that's just one thing that I like to do with AI for her. And then for Shopify sellers, because I have a like a little school and a free 7-day challenge that we can probably talk about later.
Yeah.
But I create GPTs to help people do those little SEO tasks. And one of my favorite GPTs to create content that sounds like you, but is optimized for the person's search intent is something called a jobs to be done GPT. And so essentially you just put in the keyword that you want to rank for, and also the job that the person is trying to do, like whether it's buy a watch for a special occasion or something like that. And then the GPT will give you something for your page copy. And then you can optimize that even further by adding keywords to different headings or that type of thing. So whatever you do on your website, I probably created a GPT for that, because you do it over and over again. And that's what I'd recommend for people. If you are noticing that there's certain tasks that you do, whether it's creating podcast show notes or content for your website or blog or whatever, create a GPT for yourself, a structure for yourself, a template. That way you can cut down on some of the repetition of the things that you always have to do. And then you can focus on just kind of inserting your personality into certain points.
Awesome. I always like to ask, how has AI restructured your workflow? And I relate to that, definitely using custom GPTs and projects. And I know that they're termed different things, whether you're a Claude user or a Perplexity user or Gemini user. They kind of all have similar aspects and themes. If you're tuning into this podcast, you're most likely an AI advocate, and you may have also wondered how to support your body against the invisible stress of EMFs. Think Wi-Fi, cell towers, or hours in front of your laptop. Leela Quantum products are lab-tested in triple-blind studies and are proven to help harmonize and neutralize EMF signals. Their products are the few things I felt a real energetic shift from. I personally wear their Quantum Energy necklace daily. And if you're someone who cares about optimizing your energy and nervous system like I do, explore their offers with my exclusive discount link below. So you mentioned you're a solopreneur, so I think one of the biggest benefits of our time is that AI makes the solopreneur possible without really nearing burnout. If you can just talk about the topic of how AI supports your business as a solopreneur.
Well, first of all, I would love if you have a podcast episode about how you lean into it for business and accounting. I definitely want to hear about that one. That sounds amazing. But one thing I wanted to mention is I feel like these AI tools have helped me so much in my confidence, because I've never been slow, when it comes to implementation. Like, I'm not afraid. Like, I have an idea, I'll implement. But there's always that second guessing of, oh, is this correct? Should I do it this way? Or is there a better way? Or am I missing something? And having an LLM to chat with and kind of flesh out some of those things that we might question or not fully understand, like, it's just giving me so much confidence. And I also feel justified in what I'm saying. And so I love the fact that I used to say you should give everything in your business a job. Even if you're a solopreneur, you should treat everything that you do in your business like you have employees. Even if it's like, you don't have a social media manager, but you give your social media a job. This is what you are supposed to do. And therefore, now you can delegate the responsibilities of that job to your LLM to create for that platform or whatever. So I feel like I have the support of a team as a solopreneur because I've created systems for all the things that I need to do. And so, yeah, it's less lonely in some ways, but I feel more supported. I feel more confident in some of the decisions that I make. And then I feel justified in what I share, where I don't have that imposter syndrome creeping in.
I agree. It has given me so much confidence to have an enormous amount of information, knowledge, and education at my fingertips. It really is the ultimate source of empowerment. You touched on something just now where you talked about the systems you have in place. If you could share a little bit more, like if you were to hire or virtually create an AI agent or a designated employee that your AI would fit the role of, how would you go about giving it the information that it needs? Like, what is your way of putting systems and operations in place? Some people I know have full-on SOPs that they write out. They write out every single task of before, during, and after. How do you go about filling those roles for your AIs for you? Like, what's your method?
Well, I started thinking about this recently because with my Shopify store, I was like, what can I delegate? What could I delegate to somebody else? And how can I make sure that they are doing it, number one, the way that I want it done, and number two, the way that it's best for the system. And with Shopify's just come out with a new theme called Horizon. And it's like a completely different free theme that everybody's building on. It's completely different than what they've had in the past, which the most recent top free theme from Shopify was something called Dawn, and Horizon is just different. You can, kind of write your own code within the theme. If there's an element missing that you want to create or have and it's not there, you can say, hey, create me a date picker that only allows the next 14 days to be chosen. And it's just custom right there for your website. So there's really cool things like that can happen in there, but you also need a system of like how people are interacting with your site, because that's the scariest thing when you hand off your website to somebody. It's like, please don't break it. But how do they know how not to break it? And that's where the SOPs come in. And so there are potential SOPs for everything in Shopify. And just to break it down to its most like simplest form, like by product, every product needs to be a part of a family. It needs to be part of a collection. It needs to have a reference number. And so I actually created SOPs for what I felt like were every single element of Shopify that you could systematize. And so that's actually the big project that I'm working on right now. It's a course called Maker to Merchant. And, just to help people kind of make that shift from the Etsy seller mindset of like somebody's already created the systems for me to I'm going to create my own systems and follow these SOPs, which are uploaded into a custom GPT to create that SOP for that business. And then they can follow it. They can hand it off to a VA. But, that's what I think the key is you've got to find ways that you can duplicate yourself, that you can make the process super easy to follow. Because even like the new Claude bot, I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought I was creating this for a VA. What if you could create it for your own Claude bot to go in and do those things? I mean, my mind is like, oh my gosh, it didn't even occur to me. And here comes another form of technology to fill in the gap. So I'm just like, oh, this is amazing.
I know we are living in very exciting times. Things are about to get very, very interesting quickly with that news coming out just this past week.
Yeah.
So exciting. What about on the other end of things? Like, did you see any challenges with your AI adoption? We've talked about all the amazing benefits, a little bit behind your system, and some really cool things that you're building. But I always like to share and highlight any challenges you overcame with your AI adoption, because a lot of people go in thinking it's just this light switch miracle that they're going to get so much from, but it really is a process of trial and error. And I'd love to highlight your story on that a bit.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that although the LLMs themselves are confident, they're not always correct. And so I think that's an assumption that a lot of people come in with when they're first using it. It's like, oh my gosh, like this output is so amazing. Like it's saying it so much better than I could have said it. And it must be right. That's not the case. And so one thing I've realized is you have to give, especially your custom GPTs, as much context as possible. And so, I have this thing where I will do a brand interview with a company so I can hear in their words, and we'll upload reviews, every piece of data that we can actually upload into that custom GPT to understand the brand is super important, because then it has something it can reference and pull from. And I feel like the LLMs they're getting better and better and better, obviously, at remembering data points. But if you can create a gem or a GPT or even an application that has self-referencing materials, that's going to be more accurate every single time than just having a chat with a chatbot or just asking for an explanation or an output from a ChatGPT or Gemini. So that's something that I've learned, like as much context as you can give it, as much research that you can fill it with. That's like your original research. Like, these are the things that are true about my brand. This is my brand guide. These are the colors. You can then correct it when it gives you back something and you're like, wait a second, those aren't my brand colors. Or wait a second, that's not an actual review that I uploaded. Please only use reviews that exist in the documents that I gave you. So that kind of feedback really helps your LLMs give you better output. And I don't think that initially when people use them, I know that when I first started using, I wasn't worried about the input I was giving it. I was so impressed by its output. It just seemed to know everything, but it was just predicting what it thought I wanted. And we can really give it what it needs to give us exactly what we need back.
Yes. And you're bringing up this conversation I had with Chat yesterday. That's very top of mind, is that I noticed that it started reflecting back to me the context that I was giving it, like quite literally. And I had to stop it in its tracks and be like, listen, I'm giving you a lot of the backstory and the context here for you to have as background information, not to regurgitate back into this copy.
Right.
And it's just a good example of what you just gave, of how very specific you have to be with your context engineering. And sometimes we forget that, yeah, we need to have to do a lot of back and forth and give like very fine instructions. So I like hearing your experience and examples there. My next question for you, since you are very well versed in SEO and all of these advancements with AI and search engine optimization, LLM optimization, I know a lot of my clients are jumping into wanting to be discovered on AI chatbots. But where do you see this all going in the next year? I'd love to see like what you see coming down the pipeline with your clients, what projects you're working on, and any trends you want to share with SEO or online discovery with the advancements of AI.
Well, first, I want anybody who's listening right now to make sure that you caught what Brooke said, because you said a very cool little, I don't know, a couple words there. Instead of content optimization, I think you said context optimization. And I think that is the key right there. Starting with our context, that's really important, more even important than content, because anybody can generate content now. That's why a lot of it sounds so much the same, because what ranked on Google were things that reinforced each other, So if you're going to rank on Google of the past, you just want to like say more than the other person did, that was ranking above you. And it's just like, okay. But that's not how people are searching now. When they're searching in LLMs, they're really getting deep. Like I'm going back to Kansas, or here's a better thing. I've been searching for a new car. And so I use ChatGPT to help me negotiate with, what should the price be? What are the ranges? Find me examples online of other cars that are like this, because I really like a Tesla. I really want one with self-driving 4, and I'm looking for a 2024, and I want the best price. Obviously, I want a 2024. So I've been able to negotiate back and forth by text with dealers about their pricing. And I've gotten kind of close, but one of the biggest things is now, again, I have the confidence in the context of what else is going on the internet. So it's helping me understand how to communicate better. So context is everything. That's really important. And then for the future, like I said, it's not about doing content bigger and better than other people anymore. It's just matching that search intent. And so if somebody is searching for a Tesla, why are they searching for a Tesla? Like people need to, like car dealers, they don't get this. Like they are thinking, oh, we're competing on price. No, what about what's happening in the future? Supposedly in the future, these cars might be able to drive themselves, right? So your technology, the ones that have the technology that might be able to do that in the future, those have a higher value to me. Like don't show me a 2022 or anything that doesn't have that hardware. Like understand the context of why I want to buy. That's where LLMs surpass like even human salespeople right now. Because I noticed after I started asking questions, some of those same dealers started putting like hardware 4 on their description or even on their image with it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm glad that I could help you. But good for them that they listened to the customer. So I feel like of the future, search is more about what the customer wants versus what the company wants to say. It's like, what does the customer need? Because if you don't align that, it's called semantic alignment. And it's essentially a math problem that translates to English. And if you can't match those things, the LLMs won't even know to reference you or to help you show up. And one other example I can give on this, I talked about it on my podcast, was the old days of search were like, find the biggest search volume term that you can and rank for it so you get the most traffic, right? Well, sometimes that doesn't make sense, because like a term like volleyball gift, something like that, people might be looking something more for like trinkets, right? I sell $200 plus custom photo gifts, like memory keepsakes that you hang on your wall and they last forever. When people are looking for trinkets of volleyball gifts and then they see a $200 price tag, they're like, whoa, no, that is not for me. So LLMs have also given us permission to really dive deep into like, why is somebody buying that? They're trying to honor somebody who's had a long career. It has emotional value. It has something that's going to wow their friends, their family, that's going to wow the player, that's going to bring them to tears. You can't do that with a keychain. But volleyball gifts as a keyword, that might have been something people would have went after in the past. I know I did. but I'm getting deeper and deeper and deeper with my customers. So maybe I'm only going to get like 20 or 30 searches a month, but I'm hitting my buyer. I'm finding the person who wants that emotionally driven, sentimental keepsake that they're willing to pay a lot of money for, because the person on the other side of that gift, they just want to show them how much they value them. That's the difference between search of the past and search of the future.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I learned a new term today, semantic search.
Oh, it is everything. I really feel like I recently just pitched a conference about semantic search, because I can almost guarantee you give me any web page and I can tell you what's wrong with it. And that was one thing that I wanted to also hit on when you were talking about having those conversations with LLMs. ChatGPT is very complimentive, lots of compliments. You're so wonderful. You're like the best thing ever. And how could anybody just not put you on a mountaintop? And it's like, whoa, ChatGPT, how do you even know me? I feel like Gemini is more objective. And you can train your LLMs to be more objective. And the custom GPTs that I've said, be objective, don't tell me what I want to hear. I could always tell when I've done that, because I'm going to give it to you straight, with their responses. But it's so important that you train your tools to give you objective advice. And like you said, not regurgitate or give you back what you want to hear. And I had one client, actually, it hurt his feelings a little bit, because I did a semantic analysis of his homepage. And it was like, okay, what is the meaning map? What is this page supposed to mean in terms of reaching the client you want to reach? And what is their meaning map? They were incongruent. And so when I said, these are the places we need to fix, and Gemini and we said this, I just sent it to him. And he was kind of like, oh, wow, that was harsh. And I thought, oh my gosh, that wasn't me saying that. That was my tool that I created. And it was right though. But it wasn't like, oh, you're so great, da-da-da-da. It was like, no, these are where, what you say you do and what people need you to do are not aligning. And if you want this business, this is what you need to do to correct it. So semantic analysis is amazing. It's objective. It's the translation between the English language and the computer's understanding. So
love that. I'm going to use that moving forward. I have a fun question for you. You shared about a really cool course you're creating, but any other projects you're working on, or if you were to use AI to maybe vibe code and create something overnight that doesn't exist yet, what would you have it do specifically?
Well, I'm working on a couple things. Obviously, this whole maker to merchant with Claudebot is a new passion or idea. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think that I would be able to do something like that. For Etsy sellers and Shopify sellers, or people who sell multi-platform, one of the biggest challenges is seeing your dashboard in one place. And so that's something that I've worked on. Unfortunately, Etsy denied me access to their API, and I'm not exactly sure why. I don't know if I, didn't use the right language or if I'm not big enough. So that was one of those hiccups, but I think maybe I can get around it by creating something for people to give access, within the tool itself. So I did that on Lovable. And so that was really fun. I do have a free traffic challenge. And, I have something called AI SEO School with a K. So AI SEO School, there's a free traffic challenge. So if anything I've said today is kind of interesting to you, you can come in and kind of get your feet wet with SEO, because the basics are kind of like table stakes now. You know what I mean? Like being able to write a title on your page that has a keyword in it, that's kind of like the minimum bar to entry. Those are the days of doing technical SEO and getting strong results from that. It's only the basis of what you need to do. The real magic happens when you can meet your customer where they're at, because you want them to trust you. Essentially, that's what your web pages are going to need to do in the future. They need to demonstrate trustworthiness, authority, the expertise, all this, the EEAT of Google's system. All of those things can be communicated on your web page. Of course, you need to have the basics set up too. So technically they can even find you. So I kind of take people through that in that 7-day challenge. And if they like it, they can stick around and meet with me once a week. But if not, hopefully they'll learn something that they can take with them.
Amazing, Crystal. Is there maybe a final key takeaway? I always like to leave the door open at the end of the podcast. Maybe if you want to speak to anybody in the e-commerce space that's on their AI journey, what would you like them to walk away with after hearing this conversation?
Man, I love AI as a tool, and I want every person to optimize their website, right? I want you to optimize your website. I want you to get found. I want your business to be successful. But more importantly than anything, I want you to optimize your life. And I mean that by saying, like, you can do all the work in the world to optimize your site. You can grow a business that's super successful, making lots of sales. I don't know. But what is it that's going to make you the best you? And having a heart attack in 2020, it really helped me kind of reprioritize. And I said, listen, I may make less money for a while, quitting my teaching job and all that type of stuff. But what was most important to me were like a few things that I said, like I call it my perfect day. And they were the little things like being able to sit on my back porch, being able to wake up every day. That was a big one for a while. You know, I got to get more grateful about that again. But sitting on my back porch, like seeing the deer every once in a while, spending time with my family. Like we want to create businesses that allow us to do more of the things that we love. And so I just want to encourage you, like wherever you can leverage AI to help you create a life that you want to live, like that's my mission. It goes beyond just websites for me. It's like, let's build a website and a business that just supports the type of life that we want to live. So that's probably my last message of the day.
So beautiful. I really enjoyed this conversation and getting to know you. I love that final key point, and I couldn't agree more with that statement. What is the best way for listeners to reach out to you? How can they connect and learn more about everything you're up to?
Well, of course, AI SEO School with a K, AISEO.com is my free 7-day challenge. I'd love to see you over there. I'd love to hear any questions that you have. I am Simple and Smart SEO on every platform, so you can go binge YouTube content, podcast content, whatever, Instagram, TikTok content. I have been going live on TikTok lately, so you can find me there. And then, of course, my website. If you're interested in somebody actually like coaching you through this or a done-for-you Shopify store, then you can reach me at simpleandsmartseo.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Crystal. I appreciate your time today.
Yes, Brooke, it's awesome. I'm so glad that we crossed paths at PodFest, and I look forward to you being on my podcast as well.
Yes. Listeners, check out my episode on Crystal's podcast if you want to dive in deeper about AI and SEO.
Let's go. Thanks, Brooke.
Wow. I hope today's episode opened your mind to what's possible with AI. Do you have a cool use case on how you're using AI and want to share it? DM me. I'd love to hear more and feature you on my next podcast. Until next time, here's to working smarter, not harder. See you on the next episode of How I AI. Have you just started exploring AI and feel a bit overwhelmed? Don't worry, I've got you. Jump on a quick start audit call with me so you can walk away with a clear and personalized plan to move forward with more confidence and ease. Join my community of AI adopters like yourself. Plus, grab my free resources, including the AI Get Started guide, or try my How I AI companion GPT. It pulls insights from my guest interviews along with global reports so you can stay ahead of the curve. Follow the link in the description below to get started.